the 1930s, the big Hollywood studios, well, they literally decided to have something of a kickback against all their major stars. Oh yes, even though you'd made millions for them, they decided to let the world know that in fact, well, perhaps you were not as popular as you originally thought. And out came the list of box office poison. This literally shattered through Hollywood, and you imagine this is at the very height of the movie-going era. You know, the big stars like Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford, even Lana Turner tipped at one point, and consequently this was all to prove to the movie-going public that in fact the studios were in charge, and more importantly to the stars that, well, however big you thought you were and however popular, it's all about box office receipts. Now it turns out that in fact this particular latest incarnation of a well-loved and well-admired musical based on the movie from 1950, Sunset Boulevard, which starred William Holden and of course the brilliant Gloria Swanson, well, this pussycat couldn't rake in a profit as ever. Let me explain. Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to have your company. We'll have a lovely wave here on one of the hottest days in the United Kingdom. So forgive me if I look a little bit sort of flushed, shall we say. Don't worry, I'm going to have a nice lolly soon. Yes, it's the way forward, isn't it? And it's the only thing you can do, I know. Well, yeah, sitting with a cornetto's lovely by a deck chair by the sea. Nothing can beat it, can it? Of course, unless you've invested heavily in a musical. Now, as I've told you before, and this is fascinating, chums, right? As many people know, behind the scenes I do many different activities, including marketing major shows, helping with assistance with, you know, sort of getting people through the door, that sort of stuff. And it's interesting when you reach out to this new level of people. I reached out recently to the producers of Evita, and I explained to them very simply, without virtual zero cost, how they could have £1 million worth of free publicity for the show that's not filling seats every night at the world famous London Palladium. Not one person got back. I sent the email again, not one person got back. Eventually I called them. They said put it in an email. I pointed out I had, and then nobody got back. They didn't bother to respond. It's interesting, isn't it? Because they're dicing and playing with your money, particularly if you invest in a big show. And what I would say to the producers of Evita is when you tot up your losses, remember, people did try and help, but there you go. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Nicole Scherzinger, a beautiful young lady, singer, former pop star of the Pussycat Dolls, was a bit of a shock choice to star as Norma Desmond in a revival over here at the Savoy Theatre in Sunset Boulevard, simply because, in my opinion, she's too young, too beautiful, and is not exactly the picturesque thing that you see playing a demented diva. But this is the new wave of theatre. This is basically scaling everything down apart from the theatre prices, right? So you pay heavily to see something that looks like a rehearsal room with blacked out sort of billboards and bits of cinematic pieces and, you know, sort of scenery on casters and everybody in black and white with the ubiquitous half-naked males. You get the picture. Now, Jamie Lloyd, the producer behind Sunset Boulevard, took it over to Broadway. And guess what? This lost over $4 million. Now, it's impossible when you look at the figures because it was very successful. It was a hot ticket. Nicole did a lot of publicity and, you know, you would have thought this would have made a return. But you see, it was a season and it didn't make a return on that. Now, one might suggest that the people behind Sunset Boulevard are a little bit dense because you simply do the figures. You need to run for X amount of time to turn a profit, and on that particular point, your star has to appear on every single occasion. You see how this works. But consequently, it didn't work out like this. And now the bottom line is, although a couple of days ago, Andrew Lloyd Webber Theatres put out this wonderful thing about what a great success it was, they simply didn't detail the losses that it also incurred. And as I said, what they're called is theatrical angels. And basically they go to a group of people and say, would you like to invest in this play, musical, drama? And then they look at the cast and they tell you what they're going to do and where they're going to tour it and projected costs. So if you did invest in there, I would say, and as ever I have to say allegedly, it might be some time before you saw a return. Now, I don't know about you, but of course many people might suggest that even though she's a beautiful lady with a wonderful singing voice, again, not many people were ready to pay out even longer for Nicole's close-up. But either way, if you backed it, you lost. Neil Shawn, Kensington, London.